What's up YouTube, Zero here, and today I have an EPIC Garchomp plus Golduck deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll talk about the cards that make up this deck and why each of them are great individually and as a whole as part of this deck. I'll talk about why this deck setup is epic and why it competes with some of the very best decks. Without further ado, let's talk about this Garchomp plus Golduck deck. Now, something to note, a new Garchomp just came out. That's Garchomp EX. This is not a Garchomp EX deck. This is the normal Garchomp plus Golduck deck. Garchomp EX, I am working on some deck builds with that Garchomp EX, but right now this is the basic Garchomp. Not basic, but the stage 2 Garchomp plus Golduck. I love Garchomp. He is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I absolutely had to develop a deck centered around Garchomp. Of course, he's going to be the star. This is a mainly Garchomp deck going to be focusing on Garchomp. So, of course, you need 2 Gibbles, 2 Gabites, and 2 Garchomps. The regular Garchomp. Now, where Garchomp really shines is the fact that it deals 100 damage only for 2 energy, which is awesome. Unfortunately, you do need 2 different types of energies. You need a water energy and you need a fighting energy. Most of the time, when you're ready to evolve Gabite into Garchomp, you're going to have this energy. Not saying that happens all the time. There are instances where I have time after time gotten just water energies. Unluckily, that does happen every once in a while, but that's how the risk you run when you are utilizing a Pokemon or a deck that has multiple energy. So you are going to have water plus fighting in this deck. So the first 3 are that Garchomp line. The Gibble, the one with the colorless energy to start, because if you are starting with a Gibble, it won't matter if you get water or a fighting energy, you can at least attack with Gibble. So make sure you have the Gibble with the colorless energy. Then you want the Gabite with water plus fighting, because that evolves you right into the Garchomp with the water plus fighting energy, so you could be dealing that 100 damage. Cynthia goes without explanation. It is absolutely epic to combine Cynthia with Garchomp, and it's very sneaky as well. For those of you who don't know, Cynthia is going to add plus 50 damage to Garchomp. She also adds plus 50 damage to Togekiss, but this is not a Togekiss deck. There are other decks where Cynthia does wreck with Togekiss, but Cynthia wrecks with Garchomp, adding 50 damage. You're going to be taking out a lot of EX Pokemon. Garchomp at 100 damage is great. Add Cynthia with 150, and you're going to be tearing through, one-shotting a lot of EX Pokemon. Articuno, Starmie, Pachirisu, Pikachu, Palkia. A lot of EX Pokemon are on the 150 to 140 range in terms of hit points without adding a cape. So you're going to be able to one-shot a lot of Pokemon, and if your opponent isn't ready for it, you're going to be able to get those 2 points very easily. Whether that's going to win you the game because you already have 1 point, or it's going to set you up nicely to win the game. It's absolutely sneaky and absolutely a great combination that I love utilizing. Now, some people may be questioning why Psyduck Golduck. It might be a little weird for some people. A lot of decks don't run Psyduck Golduck, and I don't know why, to be honest. Let's talk about Psyduck and why Psyduck Golduck. 1, Psyduck's Headache can be a killer for opposing teams when you get Psyduck to start a match. For those of you who don't know what Headache does, is it does deal 10 damage, but that's not the best part. Yes, 10 damage is very little. However, Headache prevents the enemy from utilizing trainer cards. So while you're able to build up your deck utilizing Professor's Research, the enemy is not going to be able to. Perhaps the enemy wants to get to your Gibble on the bench because you're trying to set up. Maybe they want to use a Sabrina so they can go after that Gibble because they know what this deck is. Guess what? Utilizing Headache is going to prevent your enemy from doing so. It's going to really slow down your opponent building his or her deck. It's also going to be able to protect your Gibble on the bench from an enemy who's trying to draw that Gibble out via Sabrina. Maybe you have damage on your Gibble via Cyrus. So you're going to be blocking a lot of those trainer cards and causing frustration with the enemy because the enemy is not going to be able to maneuver the battlefield as he or she would like. So I love Psyduck to start out with this deck because you can hide Gibble on the bench and build up that fighting water energy that you like so you can set your Garchomp Cynthia combination up ready for battle. On top of that, and maybe this is just me and my luck, I don't know how other people are, but if you are running this deck with the water fighting combination, me personally, I somehow always get water energy more so than fighting. In my last 20 matches, there's been at least 2 times I've gotten 5 water energy in a row. So if I'm going to get a lot more water energy than fighting energy, I might as well put it to good use by having a Golduck. Golduck may not be the best Pokemon in the game, but 70 damage for only 2 water energy is sneaky good and can deal some damage to the opponent while I'm setting up my Garchomp Cynthia combination on the bench. So Golduck is a nice way to deal a decent amount of damage to get your Garchomp prepared to rip through the opposing Pokemon. That's why I love Golduck as a part of this combination, and Psyduck as well. Psyduck is going to cause a headache for the opponent, not allowing them to utilize trainer cards that they would prefer to use, such as Professor's Research, such as Cyrus or Sabrina. Golduck is just a sneaky character that can deal 70 damage to opponents pretty quickly if you get a couple of water energy. 70 is really good because it can eat a lot of health, and if you can save your Cynthia for a stronger Pokemon because you got an Aqua Edge off from Golduck, that's going to be even better. Now let's talk about some of the support cards in this deck. Professor's Research and Pokeball are givens. They're almost run in every deck I've seen. The more cards you get in your hand, the better, because you're going to be able to implement your strategy quicker. Obviously, the strategy of this deck is going to be, let's get Garchomp, let's get Cynthia. Dealing 150 damage is extremely important because, as I said earlier, you can eat through a lot of EX Pokemon. And I didn't even list them all. Those were just a few off the top of my head. You can also eat through a couple that I didn't mention. Mewtwo, Mew. The list goes on of EX Pokemon that you can one-hit KO with the Garchomp Cynthia combo. So that's really the bread and butter of this build, and it's what you want to get to. So Professor's Research and Pokeball are going to get you there. The communication card is going to help get you there as well. This is a card where you can, I don't want to say sacrifice, but offer up one of the Pokemon in your hand and trade it for a random card in your deck. Now, when I say offer up, I mean you're putting it back into your deck. So let's say I have a Psyduck in my hand and I already have my Gibble and Gabite on the field. So my Gabite's ready. I have a water energy. I have a fighting energy. I just need a Garchomp. I'm at the point in the game where I don't need a Psyduck anymore. So I can put that Psyduck into my Pokemon communication, shuffle it into the deck, and hopefully draw a Garchomp so I can play that Garchomp on the field. Pokemon communication can really save you in a pinch when you have a Pokemon in your hand that you don't necessarily need in that moment and you're looking for another Pokemon. So that's why I love Pokemon communication. Now, Cyrus is one of those cards where you could probably trade it out for another trainer card such as a Sabrina if you want. I prefer Cyrus because enemies always try to hide weak Pokemon on the bench. Cyrus is going to be a way to stop those enemies from hiding those weak Pokemon on the bench. That's why I love having Cyrus as a part of this deck, because if your opponent has an EX Pokemon on the bench and they're weakened, you're of course going to want to eat through it so you can get those 2 points. That's why I love having Cyrus here, so I can pick off that weakened enemy on the bench. So Cyrus is a great play here, but if you want Sabrina, you can play around with it to see which card works better for you. But I like Cyrus so the opponent cannot hide a Pokemon on the bench. Now in that last slot, I do have the Rocky Helm. The reason why I have the Rocky Helm is early on in matches, I can protect my weaker Pokemon. Psyduck's not dealing a lot of damage. If I'm able to draw that Rocky Helm, it's going to protect Psyduck as well as dealing a little bit more damage. I can either deter my enemy from attacking me because Rocky Helm is going to deal 20, or I can at least deal a little bit more damage since Psyduck isn't dealing a lot of damage. It can also, again, help protect my Gibble. Maybe the enemy is going to be deterred from attacking my Gibble, so Rocky Helm is there. However, if you do want to use the Giant Cape to add 20 HP, I wouldn't fault you. Garchomp is at 140 HP. There are a lot of decent Pokemon, EX Pokemon, that can one-hit KO 140 HP. I'm facing him in this clip right here. Mewtwo deals 150 damage. If I have Giant Cape, that's going to allow me to survive one of Mewtwo's attacks. I can also survive a Garchomp Cynthia attack if I am facing the same deck. So there are benefits of having the Giant Cape. There are benefits of having Rocky Helm. I just prefer Rocky Helm, considering I get to protect my Pokemon early on when I am trying to build up my Garchomp Cynthia combination for the end game. This deck is very sneaky good. I can deal damage quickly and I can eat through a lot of EX Pokemon. A lot of enemies are not prepared for Garchomp Cynthia, and I love it. I love Garchomp, one of my favorite Pokemon, and he eats through a lot of different decks. Golduck, again, provides that nice little side. Psyduck is stopping your opponent from playing trainer cards, while Golduck is sneakily dealing damage. Let me know in the comments section what you think of this deck. Have you used it? Have you used something similar, and how much do you love it? One of the drawbacks I have found in this deck is just, of course, the energy. Every once in a while, I get those games where I just can't get the right energy on my Gibble, Gabite, Garchomp, where I'm just drawing 5, 6 water in a row. Even though that's slim, it does happen. However, it is pretty easy to set up Garchomp, and once you're able to set them up, you draw that Cynthia, and you're going to be able to go to town on other teams. Don't forget about Garchomp's ability, Reckless Shearing. Reckless Shearing allows you to discard a card to draw another one. If you're towards the end of the game and you need to draw a Cynthia, don't be afraid to get rid of cards that you don't need in order to get that Cynthia, so your Garchomp can deal 150 damage. As you can see here, at the end of this game, my Garchomp is ready, almost dead. However, I do have a Cynthia ready to deal 150 damage to his Mewtwo. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. for more Pokemon TCG content. I have a bunch of deck builds on the way, so be on the lookout for those. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and until next time, peace.